Let's start off with the first impressions and review of Neverness to Everness Closed Beta 2. And just as a heads up, this video is not sponsored at all. This is just my honest opinions about the game after playing it for many hours now. Of course, I'd say I'm about 8 hours into the game, so definitely still very early game as far as gacha games are concerned. This would be technically like day 2 of login for the game, but these, I did have a lot of experience with closed beta 1 to draw a lot of comparisons to and to kind of comment on what was improved or not. The next thing is this closed beta definitely improved a lot on the storytelling, because one of the big issues I had with the previous closed beta was not only, well, I guess I couldn't really understand most of the story because it was all in Chinese from what I remember, but they also added some critical cutscenes and world building, as well as those cutscenes effectively setting the stakes for the game. But because of that, the story felt a lot more fleshed out, and it is a massive improvement. It's still quite confusing in all honesty, but fortunately they didn't give us too many giant lore dumps all at the beginning, and for the most part, even someone like me who is terrible with stories was able to keep up with roughly what was going on. Basically, you guys are part of like an anomaly hunting agency that, well, just deals with anomalies that appear to disrupt and even cause some major issues in, day-to-day life in the world of Neverness to Everness. So the story is pretty lighthearted with some serious stakes is how I would describe it, and we're just gonna have to see how the story goes. Personally, I'm enjoying the story, but certainly not the guy to go to for an assessment on how good a story is. The next thing about the game, and just kind of a general overview of the game with like what you do in it. Well, you use your characters, then you kind of go through town and you complete commissions and stuff like this. And you also combat anomalies in the game, where we can see here that, for example, if we click on this, we can go through the overworld tackling these anomaly challenges. And so far, none of these anomaly challenges have really been the same with another one. All of them have felt a bit different, a bit weird, a bit unique. And that is one big strength of the game, is that you are able to have a lot of unique experiences and boss fights with the game. My computer is a pretty solid computer, and my computer has a NVIDIA RTX 4090, as well as, a lot of RAM. I think 64 gigabytes is this PC's, as well as a pretty decent processor. Basically, it is a pretty high-end gaming PC, and I'm running this on FHD, I believe, so not full resolution, and we are also running this on 60 FPS. You'll notice some stuttering as the game pretty much preloads and renders assets as you're playing the game, and that's one thing about Neverness to Everness, is that it has very few loading screens. I'm assuming that a lot of the loading is occurring as you approach certain points, and the game does have some minor performance issues. Even on my PC, you can see textures occasionally being kind of rendered in, appearing out of nowhere, especially if you go really fast. Whoa there, that guy trying to kill me. That I'm not sure it's going to be too apparent right now, but sometimes you'll notice textures pop in and out, and that's kind of natural if you're going, yeah, you can see some of the trees popping in and out in the background. But overall though, despite that, I typically don't notice those things as I'm playing. And personally, I think the game looks fantastic, although I believe due to some kind of the rendering stuff and the speed that I'm going at, you can see that NPCs aren't really, like cars and vehicles aren't really spawning, and there's lots of little details. You can see that the pavement is wet. So this is the power of Unreal Engine 5, which the game is built on. You can see a lot of modern graphics, technology and stuff. The game also has a lot of different NPCs, right? Like I've never seen these two NPCs before, and here they are. And we even have, kind of like the mom with the tacky leopard print sweater. And is that her husband? Oh, that's pretty sweet. I think they're shopping, or maybe they're arguing. Oh no. We might be witnessing a divorce happening in real time. And in fact, you are able to enter and exit buildings and stuff, which, I'm actually not sure if there are any that we can enter right next to us. But the immersion is different, and it just feels different in this game due to the lack of loading screens, due to the incredible transitions, how I describe them. The game, you really feel immersed in the city, like you are part of the city, and it's not like a bunch of instant loading zones. So the overworld and the fact that the open world here, I feel like they did a great job, or, at the very least, what they have so far. Picking up random items in the overworld appears to be based on the ping, and that makes a lot of sense because the game doesn't want you just like, if that was client side, you know, you're just going to grab whatever and make an infinite amount of copies of whatever. But it appears that combat seems to be client based, or at least client first. And it's likely that, you know, I don't really know the machinations of how their APIs work, but I'm assuming combat occurs here on the client and then it gets sent over to the servers to verify that you're not cheating and stuff like that.
Route secured.
Now, let's talk about the stuff that you can do in Neverness to Everness. And the thing is that this game really just has a lot to do in it, ranging from opening coffee shops to just exploring the overworld and just driving around. Personally, you know, like every time I try to actually accomplish something, I end up getting a very, oh my God. So it's pretty hard to focus on what you need to do because just so many goofy things will constantly happen in this game. And personally, I find the bugs, if you even want to count them that, but I find the physics and the bugs and stuff to be highly amusing and entertaining to me personally. I know it's not for everyone, and this is a good time to point out, yes, this game definitely has bugs and some very silly things will happen in your gameplay experience. But me, you know, I'm the type to laugh at things like this versus like, I don't know, get like frustrated. Right here. So like I said, there's plenty of stuff to do in this game, right? Like we've opened our coffee shop here where you can perform shop management duties. You can assign employees as well. And you can, you know, earn revenue like this. And this is a type of you know, basically city currency where you can purchase a lot of city related items with this. And what I was saying was basically the game has a ton of collectibles. So if we just go ahead and take a look at, for example, the vehicles that they offer. Oh, they only offer this one. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed here, but we can see this one costs 1.28 million to buy this like Hummer-like vehicle, or maybe it's kind of like modeled after the G-Wagon or something like that. So definitely an expensive car. For example, there are luxury apartments that you can purchase. There are luxury cars that you can purchase, all of which I am way too of a broke-ass bitch to afford at the moment. But hopefully the beta will give us plenty of city currency and we'll make a decent amount of money as we play the game more to unlock more of these assets. And speaking of this motorcycle here, I spent all my money on this motorcycle and now I can't even afford an apartment. So better to have cool wheels than to have a place to live. Am I right? But you can just do so many dumb things in this game. And that's what I love about it, right? The game does not take itself seriously. And because of that, it's not like, oh, everything has to be perfect and realistic. No, no, no. If you want to be a waifu standing on top of some other person's luxury cars they drive through the city, you can do it.
According to Article 20 of the Field Operations Code.
So next, let's actually talk about combat. And combat is a bit of a tricky subject in this game because it is both a strength as well as one of the game's weak points. But how would I describe combat in Neverness to Everness? The combat is definitely clearly action combat. And to me, I believe it is most similar to Honkai Impact 3rd. And it definitely has sprinkled elements from Genshin, Zenless Zone Zero, and Wuthering Waves all into this game. And even a bit of Honkai Star Rail, but I have to actually look into that a bit more in terms of how break damage works in this game. Basically, in combat, enemies have a break bar underneath them, where once you break them, they take some break damage, and they also get stunned for some time. So a combination of Wuthering Waves and the break damage is kind of like, you know, Honkai Star Rail. And not only that, but now I can actually dive into just the UI to talk about it. But the game also has an elemental wheel system. Basically, we have various elements, and so far I'm not, you know, an expert on how the elemental system works, whether certain enemies are very weak to other elements or not. But we have various elements where when combined or triggering an Esper cycle, which frankly, I don't even know what an Esper cycle is yet. Maybe that's the name for the QTE. But basically, each of these will have different effects on the enemies when you trigger them as you mix up these elements. For example, when we mix up diamond, or I guess auric ink, with light, then you get this effect where you slow the enemy's movement and attack speed, which decays over time, blah, 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 for 5 seconds. So we can see that there are a bunch of different elemental combinations, and some pretty cool things are that you can combine, you know, over 2 elements, like even combine 3 elements like Discord, for example, where this stuff will happen instead. And we can see it appears that they have a similar kind of talent breakdown to Genshin Impact, where they have 3 core core abilities, basic skill, ultimate, and then we also have an additional intro skill. The combat has some parry mechanics where the enemy will have a red ring, and when you attack them, you will parry the enemy. It also has a couple other enemy-specific mechanics that, frankly, I'm not that familiar with, but there are some pretty debilitating status effects as well that the enemies can inflict. But we can see that the game will likely implement some pretty harsh status effects against you, and at the moment, not really sure how to counter those things. The combat does not feel quite as impactful or nearly as smooth as, for example, a game like Zenless Zone Zero or Wuthering Waves. The combat does feel more janky, and certain parts of character kits feel a bit unresponsive, so there's definitely that to take in mind. However, overall, the combat is a drastic improvement from closed beta 1, and personally, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to improve it as they work on developing the game some more. When it comes to another issue with the combat that I have is that in the overworld, combat is very sparse. Because really, from what I've seen in the overworld, you mainly just kind of deal with these specific anomaly incidents, where once you kind of clear them, maybe some respawn, maybe some don't, I don't know yet. Once you clear these, there's even less overworld anomalies to deal with. And even then, for the overworld anomalies, you actually have to go out of your way typically to find them and to combat them. So this isn't like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves, where they're just enemies littered everywhere. You know, you just go out of a town and there's some hilichurls ready to throw hands with you every single day. You kill them and they come back the next day where you beat them up again. It's not like that. The city is an actual city, more so focused on people's lives, and not like it being a host of... Seriously? So combat in the overworld is pretty sparse in comparison, and most of the combat that you'll likely experience on a day-to-day basis is going to be more related to spending your stamina and things like that, instead of mainly focusing on combat in the overworld.
Route secured.
Now, the next topic I wanted to quickly cover is the gacha system. The gacha system is pretty interesting in Neverness to Everness. So characters have, for example, you are 100% guaranteed to get the featured 5-star S rank. Okay, they're S rank in this game. The featured S rank character. And in this case, we have Nanali as the featured S rank character. And we can see here that she is the only S rank character available in the gacha. And personally, I really hope that they keep this system where the S rank is going to be guaranteed for you. Now, what about the rates themselves? For the S rank character, it appears to be, including all the pity and the funky mechanics that I will show you guys, it's going to be a 1.88% for the S rank characters. So basically, on average, 1 every 50 whatever pulls, 53 pulls, you get an S rank character. That's my understanding, and those rates are actually pretty decent for a gacha game like this, all things considered, in my opinion. And when it comes to the total rates, like the hard pity, basically soft pity occurs at 70, and then hard pity occurs at 90. Appears to be how the rates work in this game. Now let's actually take a look at the gacha itself. And the reason why I wanted to start with the rates is because despite how the presentation might seem, ultimately, I think this is just a different skin for effectively the same gacha system. And we are in the standard banner right now. Yeah, a fun little system, but ultimately it's the same thing. Now, one interesting thing about this gacha system that is worth mentioning that is different from the others is that throughout the board, there's actually dice in it. And as you can see, you will get a dice refund in a way. If I do pull and it lands on this dice, I will get a dice refund. And you will also get star glitter, star dust. My initial impressions are that this makes it more pull friendly because you will actually get a decent number of pulls refunded as you just, play through the board game and play through this dice. In terms of those premium currencies, when you do pull, you will get warp pieces where you can exchange for dice. The solid dice, these red ones, are for the featured characters. These ones are for the standard banner characters, and this one is for the weapon banner. We also have the weapon banner, which this game does quite differently, and this is where the weapon banner is pretty interesting. You have this tiger special up where it features whatever this thing is, and emotive characters only. Okay, so basically one pull costs 10 of these keys, and in 80 of these keys you are guaranteed to obtain the S rank arc, which is effectively the weapon of this game. This gacha system does appear to be better than all of those in terms of a direct like pull to obtaining the characters that you want ratio. And that's great because as more of a latecomer, hey, where did my ride go?
According to Article 20 of the Field Operations Code...
The next thing to talk about is what about account progression? I kind of touched upon this a little bit, but let's go into a bit more detail. So account progression is divided into two main facets. We have the first facet, which is what all of us are much more familiar with. It is the character pixel facet. This is your resin, this is your stamina, this is your battery, whatever you want to call it. This energy here is used to farm for resources that power up your characters. So everything from leveling them up will cost this resource, as well as ascending them, as well as leveling up your weapon. So anything that makes your character hit harder, then you're going to have to spend those pixels or your resin in order to do so. When it comes to powering up a character, for example, you have the levels, which works very similarly to Genshin Impact and all those other games where you level up to a break point at which you can ascend those characters. And you also level up the weapon in the exact same way. You will farm ascension materials for the weapon as well as provide it EXP in order to ascend. And the weapons can be refined up to level 5, I believe. Then the artifact system works like this. And currently I only have one artifact right here on this character. And basically it is a Tetris game. As you unlock more of the X's, you will have more space to put Tetris pieces. And what's crazy about the artifacts in this game is that they have a massive RNG advantage in that you can see the stats on it before you level it up. So that means when you farm an artifact, you don't have to invest a ton of EXP resources into it, and instead you will know the substats. And if you like what you see, you can level up that artifact and use it. If you don't like what you see, just don't level it up. Now, the next major this is player-friendly moment, is this: constellations. So we have constellations in this game. I've activated, let's just activate all of them for this guy. I have 5 constellations. And now that I've activated 5 constellations, let's say I want to just test out some gameplay without the constellation. Like, let's say, my friend says, oh, I suck. Oh, you're nothing in this game without constellations. Well, guess what, punk ass bitch? I can just click remove. There's a remove constellation button. You see this? There is a remove constellation button, and you can just remove any one that you don't want. The next side of progression is, as I've kind of touched upon, it is the city progression. Let's see. Let's actually go over to the luxury apartments. We also have progression on the city side, and there's a lot of progression here to really target. And you can see here, for example, my next goal is to actually afford an apartment where you can get a nice little apartment with various furniture, and you can keep upgrading your apartment. I mean, look at how nice these penthouses are starting to look as you upgrade, and look at how expensive 7.8 million monies. Holy cow, it's going to take some time. And finally, 28.8 million for those city grinders and the Sims, that's it, the Sims gamers that want to get all the way up to this point and purchase the nicest apartment or house or whatever this might be. A villa. Is it a whole villa? Like, do you get the whole freaking house? Oh, that's sick. We could probably even do a property tour. Like, we could just go there and check it out. Honestly, since it's on the overworld. Everything I mentioned about the characters used a completely different currency and stamina system, which is this stamina. But for the overworld progression stuff, you have to work on, for example, opening up your shops. You can open up various different shops like this, and these will all provide you with some revenue. You can open up, for example, you can also do daily commissions and delivery quests where you drive around and you literally deliver cargo for various NPCs where you spend city stamina. So a unique stamina resource just for city mechanics. And you will be able to progress on 2 different basically paths. For players that really care about combat, of course, they will be more focused on that. And for players that care about upgrading their bling, their property, their vehicles, their cars, they might care a bit more about the city side of things. That's just another way that this game kind of gives you different things to do, is in the 2 different parallel paths that you can focus on and that you can upgrade. For example, character versus city progression. Okay, let's talk a bit about character design in this game. Now, you've probably already seen a decent number of NPCs that I think are pretty good for NPCs, right? Like, these are actual human beings that you might see in the real world. just walking along. There are, of course, repetitive designs. For example, we saw another girl wearing the king shirt earlier, but you know, the world is lively. The NPCs are dynamic, and while they do repeat, you feel like it's, you know, the NPCs are pretty well designed. We even have a delivery man here. In terms of the actual playable character designs, they definitely still put a lot of decent effort. Some of the designs are quite original in my opinion. Or okay, maybe it's not that original. Like you guys can probably tell me better whether you've seen characters kind of from this. And also other characters are not very original. Like, let's be real. I think this character resembles the female trailblazer from Honkai Star Rail in multiple ways, both whether it's in her stoic personality with occasional lighthearted jokes and things like that, or for example, this character who, let's be honest, looks a lot like Yishuan. Okay, in fact, this character looks so much like Yishuan, even her auric ink elemental icon. Other characters, in my opinion, I haven't really seen as much in terms of like design wise. Like, she has kind of the typical like One-sama or whatever you want to call it design, but like her design itself, I can't like say, oh, she looks just like whatever character from insert anime here. We have Mint, who, while I would say a generic cat girl, does feel like she has her own thing. We also have Welt at home. He even has a cane that he utilizes. We have Lycon from Temu.com, who, yeah, not really, you know, my thing, but he exists. And of course, we have the token Chi-Chi of the game, although in combat, she operates more like Kazuha or Venti because she sucks up enemies and groups them up. And then we have the kind of the token Husbando character who, you know, hopefully the ladies will appreciate. And yeah, in terms of character design and stuff and utilization, for example, let's grab a few of them. We have, for example, Icon, we have Batgirl, we have her as well, and we have Hathor. Various characters have different exploration abilities. This guy's abilities focus on his shadow combat. And look at this. He can turn into a shadow. I thought he could climb as a shadow. Oh yeah, he can. He can even climb up various buildings. So he's very good at climbing because he can turn into a shadow and climb up structures. So various characters do have different exploration capabilities. For example, she can turn into a bat where she loses stamina very quickly. Oh god. Where she's kind of able to fly around. And finally, we have her, where she can ride on her little monster thing, and she'll even eat overworld items. So you could play like you know, that whole.io game with her where you're just eating various things in the overworld, mailboxes, light posts, you name it, she'll eat it. So just a very fun little detail that they added. And for example, Hathor, well, she doesn't have any unique exploration capabilities with her character. She is the only one that I'm aware of that can also ride motorcycles. So that is kind of her exploration capabilities. Oh, right. And we can see here the weather. We now have a very wet Hathor. You can see some various texture changes as well. You see that her clothes here is significantly more glossy as well. Yeah, so just various texture changes and things like that, thanks to weather effects, as well as the ground now being wet, along with some additional, you know, like water related physics. So yeah, there's also snow, but I haven't unlocked the snow yet. All right, so that covers it for the characters. Let's finally just talk about kind of my overall opinion and view on Neverness to Everness. There have been significant improvements since closed beta 1. There's no question about that. You can clearly tell that the devs have been working hard on improving the game and bringing this to a market-ready state. And personally, I expect the game to get even better, more things to do, more polish, probably less bugs. Me personally, I'll be a little sad when there are less bugs, but you know, understandably so. They should remove what bugs they can from the game. And yeah, the game definitely has bugs, but again, you know, they'll work on that, I'm sure. And as a reminder, this video is not sponsored. This is my honest feeling about the game. I just actually genuinely enjoy it. I cannot put it down. And hopefully the game will be fun for you guys whenever it comes out. And let's see. One last thing about the game is the final factor, I believe, in determining whether the game will, you know, be perceived well or not is how they handle pull currency, as well as how they handle, like, you know, how much you need to grind, how they respect your time. All of these things are variables that, of course, I alone cannot answer. The closed beta will also not be able to answer, and only time will hell. So yeah, that's my first impressions and review of Neverness to Everness. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments below.